And good afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Today's November the 14th, 318th day of the year. Just 47 days remain to the year's over with, and we start a new one. Well, holidays observances. It's National Family PJ Day. Put on your pajamas and run around. National Pickle Day. National American Teddy Bear Day. National Direct-to-Consumer Friday. National Seatbelt Day. National Spicy Guacamole Day. Operating Room Nurse Day. Loosen Up and Lighten Up Day. Shed your worries and embrace the carefree vibe and let laughter flow. National Children in Need Day. It's also Children's Day. World Diabetes Day. National Split Pea Soup Week. Artes Mundi, Benjamin Benneker Week. National Recycling Week. Anti-Bullying Week. Nurse Practitioner Week. Perioperative Nurse Week. And it's the week to write those letters to Santa Claus. Transgender Awareness Week. Sugar Awareness Week. The Cairo International Film Festival. It's something filmmakers look forward to every year. Human-Animal Relationship Awareness Week. National Young Readers Week. Foster young minds' love of stories and expanding horizons through the magic of books. Famous people born on this date. Travis Barker, Condoleezza Rice, and Gary Vaynerchuk. Well, all that having been said, let's see what stories we have in the news. Well, DNC staffers been ruthlessly mocked for fuming over remote work reversal. They're told just to get yourselves together. There was a poll done to see how many of each generation preferred to work remotely. Millennials were 35%. Generation Z, 23%. Which gives you an idea of how everybody views going to the office. Well, former Air Force members, transgender Air Force members, are suing the Trump administration after losing their retirement benefits. 17 transgender Air Force members discharged under the Trump administration's transgender ban are suing the federal government for revoking their pensions and benefits after their forced early retirement. These transgender members, who served between 15 and 18 years in the Air Force, are asking for retirement benefits that had previously been offered to them. This lawsuit, filed on Monday, comes after the Air Force said in August that transgender service members who had served between 15 and 18 years would not be offered the option to retire early and apply for benefits. That reversed an earlier decision. And the service members impacted by this new policy now face a loss of up to $2 million owed for their service over the course of their lifetime, on top of the loss of course, health insurance benefits. Well, Mark Wahlberg's shared a health update after his daughter Grace's very, very scary horse riding accident. His daughter's on the road to recovery after a frightening horseback riding accident. The Family Plan 2 actor shared an emotional update. He said Grace is already determined to get back on her horse. She's doing great. It's a very, very dangerous sport, but she's passionate about it, he said. All she wanted to do was get back on the horse, no pun intended. She was chomping at the bit and worried we'd deemed the sport too dangerous. She's so passionate, so dedicated. Seems that she shares her father's signature drive, spent years crafting her skills as a competitive equestrian. But she wouldn't be the first one seriously injured. Well, the Vice President Vance is faulting the Democrats for previously rejecting the exact deal that reopened the government. He said this whole thing's been for nothing. He said the shutdown inflicted massive pain on Americans, all for nothing. Here's what the Democrats actually accomplished. They caused a lot of stress for our troops. They made our air traffic controllers not get paid. They caused a lot of flight cancellations. They had a lot of people thinking they weren't going to get their food benefits. All for nothing. I don't know what they thought they were going to accomplish, but they didn't get it. Well, for months, headlines warned of an impending famine in Gaza. We saw images of starving children, shattered infrastructure, and humanitarian collapse. They were all over the news. August 22nd, 2025, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification declared while the full data was lacking, expert inference indicated famine was underway. Governments pledged aid. Humanitarian agencies sounded the alarm. But today, nobody mentions the word famine. It's nearly vanished from the headlines. This isn't to deny that there's human suffering in Gaza, far from it. But you have to ask the difficult, necessary questions. Was famine averted, exaggerated, or politically reframed? Famine's been described as a tree swaying in the wind. At some point, it can't recover and can't be returned upright. But Gaza's so-called famine tree never appeared to fully sway. If aid efforts or local resilience truly prevented catastrophe, where's the evidence? August 22nd, 2025, famine was declared and the global press went bananas. It came a shift to the word starvation. Now even that's not mentioned anymore. And there is a distinction. Famine's a technical classification grounded in data, household food security surveys, acute malnutrition rates, mortality. Starvation, on the other hand, is a moral and legal term implying intent. Under international law, using starvation as a weapon constitutes a war crime. In Gaza, this shift occurred before comprehensive data was gathered. Escalation of accusation without empirical foundation. And that gave people like Thunberg, a blank check to do everything they could to avert the so-called famine, which was never found, of course. Well, a Russian spy ship's been detected just miles off the Hawaiian coastline. That's prompted a Coast Guard response. It was detected on October 29th, and they're continuing to monitor that ship. The official said that the Vishnaya-class intelligence ship is about 15 nautical miles south of Oahu, prompting a response by the Coast Guard HC-130 Hercules from Air Station Barbers Point and Coast Guard cutter William Hart. Coast Guard responded to the Russian Federation Navy Auxiliary General Intelligence Ship Karelia by conducting a safe and professional overflight and transiting near the vessel, according to a news release. Well, that's just part of the continuing worsening of international relations. Well, has a mother been accused of holding a man hostage after spilling a secret on her missing daughter? Melody Buzzard's mother, released after allegedly imprisoning an officer, revealed a missing daughter's location. The mother reported the missing daughter is 9 years old, and she reportedly told a man she's accused of falsely imprisoning she knows where her daughter is. An investigation into 9-year-old Melody's location was opened up by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office October 14th after a school administrator reported she hadn't attended school for a prolonged period of time. Sheriff's Office told Melody's mother, Ashley, wasn't able to give a verifiable explanation to deputies about when asked where her daughter was. Deputy said Ashley had remained uncooperative and has not confirmed Melody's location or welfare. Tyler Brewer said he was a court officer, said in a statement Ashley told him information she appeared to regret disclosing. She pulled out a box cutter and locked the doors to her home, according to ABC News. He claimed Ashley became visibly distressed after sharing information she appeared to regret disclosing. Brewer told News Nation that Ashley revealed to him where Melody was located and who she was with. Well, Brewer said he has concerns if the information Ashley told him was true. Buzzard was charged with false imprisonment on November 7th, and judge allowed her to be released from jail, but she has to wear an ankle monitor and can't contact Brewer. Well, you can do anything up to and including murder and be released on your own recognizance. The law's not what it used to be. Well, traders are betting on Zoran Mamdani's deportation odds on the Galician poly market. It's considered a long shot, but the fact that traders are wagering on it is, I think, somewhat telling. Mamdani was elected November 4th to lead the nation's largest city. Steps into power with a mandate to transform New York and a growing chorus of detractors watching closely. On Cauchy, the implied odds of Mamdani being deported has fallen to 3%, down from 8.5% on November 5th. Trading volume of the total dollar amount wagered on this market sits a little over 10,000. So it's definitely being looked at. Well, Titanic passenger's rare gold pocket watch could become the priciest artifact ever sold. This gold pocket watch, recovered from one of the richest passengers on board the Titanic, may become the most expensive artifact ever sold. The watch belonged to Isidore Strauss, co-owner of Macy's department store. He was on board the ill-fated ship April 12th, along with his wife, Ida Strauss. They were returning to New York from a trip to Europe. One account stated they were last seen sitting on the deck arm in arm, although in the film Titanic they were depicted lying side by side on the bed in their stateroom. Ida Strauss didn't want to abandon her husband and famously refused to spot in a lifeboat, preferring to remain by his side. She supposedly told him, "My place is with you. I've lived with you. I've loved you. If necessary, I'll die with you." Instead, her maid was shuffled into a lifeboat and given a fur coat to keep warm. They were among the higher echelon of society, according to experts. Days after the doomed vessel sank April 1912, the Strauss items were recovered in the Atlantic and returned to their son Jesse. And among the items recovered was an 18-karat gold Jules Jurgensen pocket watch engraved with the initials IS. It allegedly stopped at 2:20 in the morning, the moment Titanic became submerged. It's believed Ida Strauss gave that watch to her husband in 1888 for his 43rd birthday, with the date February 6, 1888 inscribed on it. That's the same year he and his brother Nathan Strauss became full partners in Macy's. At the turn of the 20th century, a pocket watch is one of the closest things to the heart of a gentleman of the era. Watch embodies this as a gift from one half of the most famous couple on the Titanic to the other. Well, a K-pop star has collapsed mid-performance, sparking concern over recent weight loss. Singer Hunya sparked fan concern after collapsing mid-performance November 9th. The star fell to the ground when singing her hit song Bubble Pop at a music festival in Macau, a region in China. Later took to social media after the health scare to apologize to fans. She said, "I'm really, really sorry. It was a short while since the previous show, though I wanted to show a good look." This was in a post written originally in Korean and translated by Google. The musician noted she didn't remember anything about that performance. She says, "From now on, I'll try to develop more stamina and work hard consistently. It'd be great if everything goes according to my wish, but I'll try." Fans, of course, were extremely supportive. MSNBC's Psaki corrects herself after accidentally referring to Trump as a predator. MSNBC host Jen Psaki accidentally suggested President Trump was a predator on her show before taking it back. Speaking to Representative Robert Garcia, Democrat of California, about a newly released emails from convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein that actually mentioned Trump, Psaki referred to other predators tied to Epstein in addition to Trump before she amended her statement. She said, now I'm not saying he is, but we don't know all the details. But of course, she has been extremely aggressive in going after Trump, like a lot of other Biden worshipers. See, the problem with the situation with Epstein, there have been so many stories and so many rumors, none of which has been supported by the facts. Well, there's been a lot of discussion about a Democratic civil war erupting as the government reopens. The left is extremely unhappy with the reopening of the government. Well, Jesse Waters has made the comment that Pelosi's got one foot in Congress and the other foot in the vineyard. She is still keeps her hand in and keeps influencing things. Saks off Fifth is closing stores across a number of states in Texas, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. It's a discount sister brand of luxury department store Saks Fifth Avenue. It's going to close 9 stores across the U.S. beginning early next year. And the retailer, that operates roughly 100 stores across the U.S. and Canada, is going to close stores starting in January 2026 as part of a broader effort to optimize its store performance. According to Saks Global spokesperson, it's part of our ongoing and comprehensive strategy. And we've taken a critical eye to our store out footprint, be closing select store locations early 2026. Expected to close stores in Austin, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, East Hanover, New Jersey, Niagara Falls, New York, Pittsburgh North, Plymouth Meeting, and Franklin Mall in Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., and West Hartford, Connecticut. And that's going to let the retailer place greater attention to our high-performing and high-potential store locations and refinements across our store footprint. Well, ex-NFL stars silent on the possibility of Trump's name being put on the Commanders' new stadium, but he is excited for the team's return to D.C. Washington Commanders to be returning to the site of RFK Stadium, where Joe Theismann became a household name. This is where the former NFL quarterback threw both his first and final NFL passes. And after moving out of the nation's capital to Landover, Maryland in 1997, the Commanders are expected to come back home in 2030. There's an old saying, you can't go back home again. Commanders are proving that you can, according to Theismann. Well, let's see. There's a Texas startup firm that's raised $5.5 million for revolutionary solar towers that produce 50% more energy. At least that's the story. Texas startup Ajanta Power secured $5.5 million in seed funding to expand its next generation solar power towers, a vertical alternative to flat solar farms. Funding round was led by Mac Venture Capital with support from Global Capital. Investment shows strong confidence in 3D solar systems that can reshape renewable energy worldwide. The traditional solar panels just don't get it anymore. GLP-1 weight loss medication has been linked to improved cancer survival in certain patients. Colon cancer patients could live longer if they take GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, according to a new study. Researchers at UC San Diego studied more than 6,800 patients who were taking one of these popular similar diabetes and weight loss medications. They found patients are much less likely to die within 5 years than those who weren't taking the drugs. Well, Martin Scorsese's daughter, Francesca, makes her Fox Nation directorial debut. She's following in her legendary father's footsteps, making her Fox Net directorial debut in an episode of Martin Scorsese Presents The Saints. Each episode of The Saints will focus on figures that shaped Christianity around the world, beginning with St. Patrick on November 16th. Well, Senator John Kennedy ridiculed Democratic Party divide between Schumer and the socialist wing led by AOC. I don't know why everybody hangs on her every word. Her claim to fame is being a very good bartender. Representative John Kennedy, Republican Louisiana, gave his thoughts on what he considers to be a divide in the Democratic Party amid fallout from the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. One impact of the shutdown, according to the senator from Louisiana, is the potential political shakeup within the Democratic Party that will land at the feet of Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. He said Schumer gambled and he lost, kind of walking around now looking like a guy who just lost his luggage. He says, I think his testicles are on back order from China. You have to give one thing to Senator Kennedy. He does know how to turn a phrase. Well, President Trump paused a busy day to greet young visitors. His sweet Oval Office moment goes viral. He shared an adorable moment with kids visiting the Oval Office. He handed out small gifts and says, my name is Donald, in a moment captured and shared online by Communications Advisor Margot Martin. This short clip's been viewed hundreds of thousands of times within hours of being posted. Struck a lighter note during a packed news cycle after the government shutdown, giving supporters and critics alike a glimpse of what they're calling the president's softer side. And in the LPGA golf debut, Trump's granddaughter Kai finished last place. But it's a good start. At least she took part. Well, let's see what stories we have in the news. And now, there we go. That was the news cycle. Okay, we've been talking about stories of the unexplained disappearances, and there have been a lot of them. Every year, in this country alone, we have over 100,000 people walk out the door and disappear. No explanation, and most of them are never found. You know, it turns out that, in spite of rumors to the contrary, some of these disappearances actually have a connection to the paranormal. And that does raise, shall we say, fascinating questions. Well, we're going to start out talking about a young man named, I think we did that one. We did that one. We're going to talk about a man by the name of Henry Hudson. You may know that name from Hudson Bay and Hudson River. And his disappearance is one of the most enigmatic and haunting tales from what they're calling the Age of Exploration. His ambition was to discover the Northwest Passage, and that ultimately led to his mysterious and tragic end. And he was born in 1565 in England. Emerged as a notable figure during the early 17th century due to his ambitious attempts to find that new trade route. He embarked on 4 major voyages financed by the English and the Dutch, with the goal of discovering a northern route to Asia. Well, this 4th and final expedition took place April 17th, 1610. Set sail from London aboard the ship Discovery. This one was financed by the English, aimed once again at finding the elusive Northwest Passage to Asia. And he had an experienced crew, but that journey was fraught with challenges from the very beginning. Navigated through the icy waters of the North Atlantic, reached what's now known as the Hudson Strait and Hudson Bay. He thought he'd found the passage. But as winter set in, his ship became trapped in the ice in James Bay, Canada. Crew was forced to spend the winter there. And during extreme cold and dwindling supplies, by June of 1611, tensions had reached a breaking point. That harsh winter, lack of food, and Hudson's decision to continue the expedition rather than go back to England led to unrest among the crew. June 22nd, 1611, they had a full-blown mutiny break out. The mutineers, led by Robert Jewett and Henry Green and some others, seized control of the ship. And Hudson and his teenage son John and 7 loyal crew members were put in a small open boat and set adrift. And the Discovery sailed away, heading back for England, leaving Hudson and his companions to their fate in the Arctic environment. The castaways were never seen again. On the Discovery's return to England, the mutineers, of course, were arrested and charged with Hudson's murder. And despite how serious their actions were, none of them were ever convicted. Lack of definitive evidence of Hudson's death and the dire circumstances of the expedition contributed to their acquittal. Historical accounts and documents from the trial provide some insight into the mutiny. Bloodstains and missing personal possessions of Hudson suggested foul play. But since there were no bodies or direct witnesses to the final moments, the true nature of Hudson's end remains speculative. There's a number of theories, of course, that have emerged over the centuries regarding Hudson's fate. First, of course, his death by exposure. Most widely accepted theory is that Hudson and his companions succumbed to the elements. Arctic environment combined with their limited supplies made survival very unlikely. Historical accounts would appear and highlight the harsh conditions they would have faced. And then, of course, there was the belief they might have been murdered by the crew. Some historians suggest Hudson might have been killed outright by the mutineers before being set adrift. Theories supported by the bloodstains found on the Discovery and the animosity built up among the crew during that harsh winter. Now, a more speculative theory proposes Hudson and the others might have survived and assimilated with the local indigenous population. Of course, there's no concrete evidence to support this idea. It remains in the realm of conjecture. And then there's cannibalism. Given the dire situation, some speculate the castaways might have resorted to cannibalism in a desperate attempt to survive. And while this is a sensational theory, it does lack any direct evidence. Well, his legacy is profound despite his tragic end. His explorations significantly contributed to European knowledge of the North American coastline and the Arctic regions. The Hudson River, the Hudson Strait, and Hudson Bay all bear his name, commemorating his contributions to navigation and exploration. His disappearance remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of the age of exploration, a reminder of the perilous nature of early voyages and human cost of these early enterprises. The disappearance of Henry Hudson is a story of ambition and exploration and human endurance. And while the exact details of his fate may never be known, his impact on the world of exploration is certainly undeniable. Hudson's story continues to captivate historians and adventurers alike, symbolizing the relentless quest for discovery and the enduring mysteries of the past. Then, of course, we have a somewhat sad story. Her name is Ruth Wilson. It was November 27th, 1995. Ruth, a 16-year-old schoolgirl from Betchworth in Surrey, vanished under enigmatic circumstances. And despite extensive searches and investigations, her fate still remains unknown. Now, on this particular day, she had started like many others for Ruth, had no morning lessons and remained at home till 11:30, when she took a taxi to Dorking. Her journey was uneventful until she made a seemingly routine stop at Thistle's Florist on Dorking High Street around noon. While she was there, she ordered a bouquet of flowers to be delivered to her stepmother, November 29th. After the visit to the flower shop, spent the afternoon at the local library. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she took another taxi to Box Hill, a scenic beauty spot. Taxi driver that dropped her off reported that Ruth just stood still in the rain, not moving from the spot where she was dropped off. The unusual behavior would later contribute to various theories about her disappearance. When Ruth didn't come back home that evening, her parents, Ian and Karen Wilson, became concerned. They contacted the school and discovered she hadn't attended classes that day. Police were called, and initial search was conducted in the immediate area of Box Hill. This search included police dogs and helicopters and thermal imaging equipment, but didn't find any clues. In the days after her disappearance, her parents got flowers she had ordered, but there was no note attached. December 1st, the police discovered 3 notes hidden under a bush in the undergrowth at the Betchworth Quarry on Box Hill. The notes, confirmed to be in Ruth's handwriting, were farewells addressed to her father and stepmother, best friend, and a teenage boy. Nearby were empty packets of paracetamol tablets and a half-empty bottle of vermouth, suggesting a possible suicide attempt. But no body was ever found, leading to speculation Ruth might still be alive. This theory was supported by the lack of any definitive evidence pointing to her death at the scene. Now, the Surrey police launched an extensive investigation known as Operation Scholar. Despite the initial searches, no concrete evidence was found to indicate what had happened to her. The case garnered significant media attention, with Ruth's parents making public appeals for information. And from the few photos attached to what was sent to me, it was clear she's quite an attractive young lady. Several eyewitnesses came forward with reports of sightings. A year after her disappearance, a girl resembling Ruth was seen at a newsagent shop in Dorking. She appeared distressed and upset when she couldn't get a copy of a local newspaper. This encounter was captured on CCTV, but the identity of that girl remained unconfirmed. Additionally, Ruth's friend, Catherine Mayer, described Ruth as being unhappy at home and tight-lipped about her troubles. This insight fueled theories Ruth might have just run away to escape personal issues. And of course, as usual, there were a number of theories and speculations. The first one, was suicide. The discovery of the notes and items found near Betchworth Quarry initially suggested a suicide attempt. But the absence of a body and other corroborative evidence left this theory inconclusive. Abduction or murder. Some theories propose Ruth might have been abducted or met with foul play. But extensive searches and investigations didn't uncover any evidence supporting this theory. Mark William Thomas, a family liaison officer, suggested Ruth might have gone to meet somebody and subsequently left, or might have died by other means. Then, of course, there's always the voluntary disappearance. Maybe she ran away. When the happiness at home and the farewell note support this possibility. But disappearing without a trace is challenging, especially for a young girl without significant resources. So this case, of course, remains open, with periodic reviews by the Surrey police. Wilson family continues to hope for answers and believes Ruth might still be alive. Over the years, various appeals for information have been made through the media. No new substantial leads have emerged. Despite the passage of time, Ruth Wilson's disappearance remains one of the most baffling cases in the UK. Her story continues to intrigue and haunt those who follow unsolved mysteries, each theory leaving more questions than it does answers. Her family's determination to find her and the community support reflect a collective hope that someday the truth is going to emerge and her story will finally have a resolution. Well, sometimes a very talented young man comes to the public knowledge. But talent alone doesn't stop people from having issues. In this particular case, we're talking about David Guerrero, Guevara, known as El Niño Pintor, the little painter. He was a prodigious young artist from Malaga, Spain. Born October 19, 1973, displayed exceptional talent in painting from a very young age. April 6, 1987, when he was just 13 years old, he vanished under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and a family grappling with grief and uncertainty. Well, at the time, he was preparing for his first major art exhibition at the prestigious La Maison Art Gallery in Malaga. His painting, a depiction of Cristo de la Buena Muerte, received critical acclaim, and a local journalist had expressed interest in interviewing him about his work. David was known for being shy and somewhat nervous about attention. He mentioned feeling anxious about the upcoming interview and the exhibition. On the afternoon of April 6, 1987, he came back home from school, changed his clothes, prepared to leave for the art gallery. He was supposed to take a bus to La Maison, located a short distance from his home. His mother, Antonia Guevara, watched him leave the house at about 6:30 in the evening, noting he appeared calm despite his earlier nervousness. Well, he never made it to the gallery. When his father, Jose Guevara, arrived at the art academy to pick him up later that evening, he was alarmed to find that David had never arrived. Family immediately reported his disappearance to the police, which sparked a massive search effort across Malaga. Initial police response was thorough but ultimately fruitless. Investigators conducted extensive searches in and around Malaga, including friends and family, anybody might have seen him on the day of his disappearance. Despite these efforts, no significant leads emerged in the early days of the investigation. Now, there were a number of eyewitness accounts that came to light. In the months following his disappearance, a peculiar clue emerged. A hotel maid found a napkin with David's full name written on it in a room previously occupied by a 70-year-old Swiss man. This man described as wealthy and interested in photography and staying in Malaga during the time of David's disappearance. Despite this promising lead, the man had died in 1990 before the police could thoroughly investigate him. Some of David's last drawings bore a resemblance to this man, adding to the suspicion. Then there were a number of anonymous tips and new leads that popped up. Over the years, several anonymous tips have been received. One notable tip implicated a man by the name of Gervasio, who was allegedly associated with the Pina El Sonachero, an art academy where David was taking classes. This lead, along with sightings of David in various locations such as Lisbon and other parts of Europe, kept the investigation alive, though no concrete evidence was ever found to substantiate these claims. Now, some theories suggest that David's artistic talent may have played a role in his disappearance. One hypothesis suggests he was targeted by a network involved in art forgery or exploitation, recognizing the potential value. Alternatively, some speculate that envy and jealousy within his own circle could have led to foul play. His disappearance deeply affected his family and the local community. His mother, Antonia, kept a light on and the front door ajar every night, hoping for his return. This case, which was officially closed in 1996 due to lack of new leads and the statute of limitations on possible crimes, was never forgotten by the authorities or his family. In 2018, David's surviving family members organized an art exhibition to honor his memory and showcase his works. This event served both as a tribute to David's talent and a reminder of the ongoing mystery surrounding his disappearance. In recent years, renewed efforts have been made to revisit the case. The National Police of Spain re-examined the files with the help of modern forensic techniques and new investigative perspectives. Although no new evidence has definitively solved the case, the continued interest and occasional new tips do provide a glimmer of hope for closure. And the case of David Guerrero Guevara spawned numerous theories, such as intriguing and troubling as the next. Some of the most discussed are kidnapping by a stranger. Most straightforward theory, of course, is David was abducted by somebody he didn't know. And the Swiss suspect, of course, remains a focal point for many who believe his mysterious presence and the napkin clue are too coincidental to ignore. And then, of course, the artistic exploitation theory has been given a lot of attention. Given David's talent, some believe may have been lured by somebody who wanted to exploit his skills for financial gain. And this theory, supported by the idea he could have been taken by an art forgery ring or other criminal organization interested in his unique abilities. Another theory is he fell victim to somebody within his own community, possibly motivated by jealousy or other personal reasons. Involvement of individuals from the Pina El Sonachero suggested by some, and they do point to this particular possibility. And then there's the ever-ready human trafficking theory. Some have speculated David might have been abducted for the purpose of human trafficking. While there's no direct evidence to support this theory, the general vulnerability of young children to such crimes, make it a consideration in a lot of missing person cases. Well, his disappearance had a profound impact on his family and the community of Malaga. His father, Jose, who passed away in 2015, never ceased in his efforts to find his son. And the emotional toil on his mother, Antonia, and his siblings have been immense. Local community also felt the loss deeply, as David's talent and potential made him a beloved figure in the neighborhood. And in 2019, a significant event reignited public interest in the case. A classmate of David's found a drawing in her mailbox, one that David had given her shortly before his disappearance. And this drawing, which is believed to be the original, had previously been turned over to the police. Mysterious reappearance raised questions about whether somebody is still trying to communicate clues about David's fate. The disappearance of David Guerrero Guevara remains one of Spain's most enduring and unsettling mysteries. Despite decades of investigation, countless hours of searching, and the unyielding hope of the family, the truth about what happened to David continues to elude everybody involved. And the case stands as a poignant reminder of the pain and uncertainty that families of missing persons endure. It also underscores the importance of keeping such cases in the public eye. Any new piece of information could potentially unlock the mystery and bring home long-awaited answers. Well, his legacy lives on through his art and the memories of those that knew and loved him. Search for answers continues, driven by the enduring hope that one day the mystery of El Niño Pintor will finally be resolved. Well, from David, let's talk about Lauren Speirer, 20-year-old Indiana University student. Vanished in the early hours of June 3rd, 2011, after a night out with friends in Bloomington, Indiana. Her disappearance remained a haunting mystery, sparking extensive investigation, numerous theories, and continued media attention. Now, Lauren was originally from Scarsdale, New York, sophomore studying fashion at Indiana University. Night of June 2nd, 2011, Lauren joined friends at her apartment to watch a basketball game before heading out for a night of partying. Among her companions was Jason Rosenbaum and Corey Rossman, friends she'd met through her boyfriend, Jesse Wolf. About 12:30 in the morning, she left her apartment and headed to a party at Rosenbaum's townhouse. The group consumed alcohol, and it was speculated that drugs such as clonopine and cocaine were also involved. Surveillance footage captured Lauren leaving her apartment looking happy and well. After the party, Lauren and Rossman went to Kilroy Sports Bar, where they stayed for about 30 minutes. Notably, Lauren left her cell phone and her shoes at the bar. Certainly odd occurrence. They then headed back to her apartment complex, the Smallwood Plaza. There they encountered a group of young men, one of whom punched Rossman, causing him to lose much of his memory that night. Now, I find that a little odd to comprehend. Following the altercation, surveillance footage showed Rossman carrying an intoxicated Lauren over his shoulder as they left the apartment complex. They arrived at Rossman's apartment, where he allegedly vomited and went to bed. Lauren then supposedly went next door to Rosenbaum's apartment. Rosenbaum insisted Lauren sleep on his couch, but she refused and left about 4:30 in the morning, planning to return to her own apartment. And that was the last confirmed sighting of Lauren. Her disappearance prompted a massive search effort involving local police, the FBI, and volunteers. Investigators scoured Bloomington and its surroundings, utilizing dogs and divers and aerial searches. Despite these efforts, though, no trace of Lauren was ever found. Now, key individuals from that night include Rossman and Rosenbaum, Michael Beth, Rossman's roommate, and Jesse Wolf. They were all interviewed by the police, all considered persons of interest but not suspects. While they cooperated in the investigation, some took independent polygraphs instead of police-administered ones, leading to criticism from Lauren's family. And a number of theories, of course, have emerged about her disappearance. Number one, it could have been an accidental overdose. Given Lauren's level of intoxication or possible use of drugs, one theory suggests she may have overdosed. Some speculate her friends, fearing legal consequences, may have hidden her body. But private investigator Bo Dietl, hired by the Speirer family, doubts that a fatal drug overdose would have prompted such actions, citing the commonality of drug use on campus. She could have been abducted by strangers. Another theory is that Lauren was abducted by a stranger. She walked home alone in an intoxicated state. Given her small stature and the fact she was barefoot, it's plausible somebody could have easily overpowered her. Police haven't ruled out this possibility, though Lauren's parents believe somebody she knew was involved. Foul play by acquaintances was another possibility. Her parents have expressed suspicion toward her friends she was with that night, believing they know more than they've revealed. Several lawsuits were filed against Rossman and Rosenbaum and Beth, accusing them of negligence in ensuring Lauren's safety. These suits were eventually dismissed due to lack of evidence proving their direct involvement in her disappearance. And then there was Daniel Messel. 2017, Brown County Prosecutor Ted Adams suggested a potential connection between Lauren's case and Daniel Messel, convicted of killing IU student Hannah Wilson in 2015. Of course, no charges were brought against Messel in connection with Lauren's disappearance, but it's still a fascinating possibility. The Speirer families continued to search for answers, utilizing private investigators and maintaining public awareness through media and social media campaigns. The case has been featured in various true crime shows and podcasts, and which keeps it, of course, in the public eye. Now, the disappearance of Lauren remains an unresolved mystery, leaving her family and friends in a state of perpetual grief and uncertainty. Despite extensive investigations and widespread media coverage, the case has yielded few concrete answers. And her story does serve as a sobering reminder of the vulnerabilities young adults can face, the enduring pain of not knowing the fate of a loved one. Her disappearance is a call to action for better safety measures and support systems for students and young adults. As the years pass, the hope for closure remains, driven by the relentless pursuit of truth by those that knew and loved Lauren. Certainly the question becomes, is she alive or is she dead? Well, this next case involves a gentleman by the name of George Mallory, an English mountaineer. Became a legendary figure in the annals of exploration due to his attempts to get to the summit of Mount Everest in the early 1920s. His mysterious disappearance during a 1924 expedition alongside his climbing partner, Andrew Irvin, has fascinated and puzzled historians, climbers, and the public for decades. His involvement with Everest began in 1921 when he joined the British reconnaissance expedition to identify potential routes to the summit. And despite severe challenges, including altitude sickness and exhaustion, the team succeeded in mapping out a feasible path. When Mallory came back in 1922, attempting to reach the summit, but was thwarted by an avalanche and severe weather conditions. In 1924, at the age of 37, he was acutely aware this might be his last opportunity to conquer Everest. The third British Everest expedition set out with renewed determination, hoping to achieve what had so far eluded him. 1924 expedition reached Everest in early May. By late May, they'd established several camps, with Camp 4 positioned on the north column, about 23,000 feet. Mallory and Irvin, equipped with oxygen apparatus, set off from Camp 4 June 6th, aiming for the summit. On June 8, 1924, fellow climbers Noel Odell reported seeing Mallory and Irvin ascending the northeast ridge, approximately 800 feet below the summit. And before the clouds obscured his view, he was sure they had a good shot at making it. And this was the last confirmed sighting of the pair. When they failed to come back, a search was conducted, but no trace of them was found. Well, initial search efforts were limited by the harsh conditions and technology of the time. First significant clue emerged in 1933 when Percy Wynne Harris discovered an ice axe believed to belong to Irvin near the first step on the northeast ridge. This find spurred further interest, but didn't give any definitive answers. In 1975, Chinese climber Wang Hongbao reported seeing a body which he described as an English dead, but his account wasn't followed up until much later due to political and logistical challenges. Well, the mystery surrounding Mallory's disappearance persisted till 1999 when the Mallory and Irvin research expedition set out to locate the climber's remains. Using clues from previous expeditions, including Wang's report, the team focused their search on the northeast ridge. May 1st, 1999, Conrad Anker discovered Mallory's body at an altitude of 26,760 feet. And the body was reported to be extremely well preserved due to the cold, dry conditions. Mallory's torso was found in what's called a self-arrest position, suggesting he had attempted to stop a fall. His injuries indicated he had suffered a severe fall, likely causing his death. But the position of his body and the absence of Irvin's remains or the camera they carried left a lot of questions unanswered. Well, a number of theories emerged regarding the fate of Mallory and Irvin. One of the most compelling theories is that Mallory and Irving might have reached the summit before their fatal fall. This theory hinges on the possibility that Irving's camera, if found, could contain photographic evidence of their achievement. Despite numerous search efforts, though, the camera's never been found. The discovery of Mallory's body and the nature of his injuries support the theory he fell into his death. The position of his body and the rope injuries suggest that he and Irving were roped together and one of them fell, pulling the other one down. And the ice axe found in 1933 and other personal items scattered along the ridge indicates a tragic accident. Hypoxia and exhaustion could have been an issue. Climbing at such altitudes without modern oxygen equipment is perilous. It's possible Mallory and Irving succumbed to hypoxia, a lack of oxygen, and exhaustion, leading to disorientation and a fatal misstep. And there were the possibility of mysterious interventions. Over the years, various unsubstantiated theories suggested foul play or intervention by other climbers, but these remain just speculative without any concrete evidence. Well, George Mallory's disappearance and the subsequent discoveries of his body cemented his status as a romantic and tragic figure in the history of exploration. His famous response to why he wanted to climb Everest, and his response was because it's theirs, become emblematic of the spirit of adventure and human determination. His letters, including those found with his body, revealed a man acutely aware of the risk he faced, but driven by an unyielding desire to achieve greatness. His correspondence with his wife, Ruth, published posthumously, indicated a poignant insight into his thoughts and emotions during his final days of life. The disappearance of George Mallory on Mount Everest remains one of the most intriguing mysteries in the history of mountaineering and exploration. While the discovery of his body in 1999 did provide some answers, a lot of questions about his final moments and whether he reached the summit before his death remain unanswered. His legacy does endure, inspiring generations of climbers and adventurers drawn to the formidable challenge of Everest, the dominant human spirit. And then we got the story of David Snedden, a bright, adventurous 24-year-old student from Brigham Young University, vanished while hiking in Yunnan province in China in August of 2004. Case remains one of the most perplexing disappearances involving a foreign national in recent history. He was the youngest of 11 children in a close-knit family. He grew up in Nebraska, where he developed a love for outdoors and musicals and sports. He was an Eagle Scout, known for his adventurous spirit and strong sense of responsibility. He attended BYU, majored in Asian studies, and fluent in Korean and Mandarin Chinese. And his passion for Asian cultures was further fueled by his missionary service in South Korea, where he developed a deep appreciation for the region and its people. In the summer of 2004, he traveled to China to improve his Mandarin and explore the country. August 14, 2004, he set off on a solo hike through Tiger Leaping Gorge, a scenic and treacherous canyon along the Jinsha River. His family last heard from him through an email sent from Lijiang, where he mentioned his plans to hike the gorge before returning to Beijing. Last seen leaving a Korean restaurant in the town of Shangri-La on August 14, 2004. Failed to meet his brother at the Seoul airport as planned, prompting immediate concern. When he didn't show up, the family reported him missing and an extensive search was launched. Chinese authorities initially suggested he had likely fallen into the Jinsha River and drowned. The U.S. State Department concurred with the assessment and concluded it was a tragic accident. But his family was skeptical of this explanation. They knew David to be a skilled and cautious hiker, and they were troubled with a lack of physical evidence, such as his body or any personal belongings being found in or near the river. His father, Roy, and his brothers, Michael and James, traveled to China to conduct their own search. They trekked through Tiger Leaping Gorge and spoke with the locals and the hikers, found no trace of David. Also discovered the hiking trail was situated far from the river, making it unlikely he could have fallen in by accident. Additionally, they encountered several people who claimed to have seen David after he supposedly completed the hike. Multiple eyewitnesses reported seeing David after his disappearance, which further fueled the family's doubts about the drowning theory. One cafe owner in the mountain region described a young man matching David's description who spoke fluent Korean. She recalled him visiting her cafe multiple times before telling her he was leaving. This account suggests David had not only survived the hike, but was making plans to continue his travels. Years later, new information emerged from Japanese sources suggesting he had been spotted in North Korea, where he was reportedly teaching English. And this claim, though never verified, added a new and disturbing dimension to the case. Over the years, a compelling theory has actually gained traction. He may have been kidnapped by North Korean agents. North Korea does have a known history of abducting foreign nationals to use as language instructors for intelligence agents. The regime has admitted to kidnapping numerous Japanese citizens for this purpose. Believe that nationals from other countries, including South Korea and Thailand, have also been kidnapped. Several factors support the abduction theory in David's case. First, his fluency in Korean and Mandarin making an ideal target for North Korean operatives seeking language instructors. And secondly, the lack of any physical evidence of an accident in Tiger Leaping Gorge cast doubt on the initial conclusion of drowning. And lastly, the sighting of David in North Korea, though unconfirmed and aligned with known patterns in North Korean abductions. His family is never going to have hope of finding him. They've worked tirelessly to raise awareness about his case and advocate for a thorough investigation. They've reached out to U.S. government officials, international organizations, and media outlets to try to keep his story in the public eye. This effort's led to resolutions in U.S. Congress urging further investigation into his disappearance and potential abduction by North Korea. 2016, new reports surfaced suggesting he was alive in North Korea, where he had actually started a family. These reports, based on information from Japanese sources, provide a glimmer of hope to the Snaden family. Renewed calls for action, and U.S. officials have expressed concern and pledged to investigate the claims, but concrete evidence does remain elusive. Well, of course, the disappearance of David Snaden remains an unsolved mystery, with his family continuing to conduct a search for answers. Whether he met with an unfortunate incident in China was abducted by North Korean agents, his case highlights the complexities and challenges of international disappearances. And this case also served as a reminder of the broader issues of North Korea's abductions and the need for international cooperation to address these human rights violations. As the search for David continues, his family and supporters remain committed to uncovering the truth and ensuring he's not forgotten. Well, the thing to keep in mind, unsolved disappearances literally happen every day. Many of them in this country, but they do happen internationally. And with the, shall we say, unrest south of our border, if somebody disappears in the border region, it's entirely possible they get taken for human trafficking or go further to the south. Having spent time in Central American countries, I can tell you how much unrest there is. I was with a military unit, and we still had stories of attempts to kidnap some of our troops. Well, no, we've come to the end of today's show. We'll be back tomorrow and talk more. And I'm sorry, this is Friday. We'll be back on Monday when we'll have a new topic regarding the strange and unusual. Until then, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show, saying have a truly great weekend.